in. First topic is, maybe it's a juicy one. Has FPV become one big upsell? Back in the day, it was all about sharing tips and tricks and building and tinkering. But today, it feels more like an upsell. And while technology evolves and it's great to get new hardware, it just seems that new innovations, new radios, new flight controllers are coming thick and fast, and kind of almost feels like we're being forced to forget about what we bought 6 months ago because it's useless, and you need to have the latest and greatest things. What do you guys think? Tristan?
So, this is obviously, I've only got a year's experience in this hobby, just over a year. So going back 10 years, I don't have any sort of information from. But certainly in that year, I mean, all my social media is crammed with adverts from certain Chinese companies or certain companies in general. And definitely, I feel like there's a pressure to have this shiny new neon looking motor and that sort of stuff. I mean, it's just shoved in your face all the time, wherever you look online. Now, is that just just in the FPV world? Obviously not. I mean, I think this is just a product of society in general. I mean, I can draw parallels certainly from the mountaineering industry that I used to be a part of for most of my life. You take skis, for example. Every season, there's a push for these new fancy skis to come out. And, that's so that these companies can stay afloat and stay relevant, I guess. So, it's kind of, what do we want? Do we want to have new products, and companies sticking around? Or, are we happy with what we've got? And, are we going to see, companies folding here, there, and everywhere because they can't come up with new stuff that people spend their good money on? I mean, it's a really tricky one. But I think so. I think for me, it's certainly too much. I mean, social media, Facebook, for example. Goodness me. I mean, you can't find good information on a lot of the community groups now because of adverts. Easily anyway. What do you guys think?
I personally think that.
Dave.
Oh, sorry. I personally think that.
Good start.
I'm getting confused. I'm always confused. I personally think that the whole social media evolution thing's like changed everything because it's another e-commerce platform for everything. And I understand, look, times are tough. Everyone's trying to work out different ways of making money and stuff like that. And like hands off to the big players like the Bardwells, the guys that, do the time, the Chris Rosses and stuff that do all this testing and all this work and stuff. But these people that are now using AI to go and do a PID tool, I tried doing research and stuff, and there's like 5 different automatic PID tools you can buy now. Instead of doing it manually, there's AI PID tools you can go and buy and purchase and stuff. And I had a chat to a few beginners and things and said about, how do you guys feel about this? And they've got a strong belief of they get inspired by someone on a social media group. They go to ask a question and they either get fobbed off or they get, ridiculed saying you should know this, or they're tricks of the trade that, secret privy information and stuff like that. And that's only half of them. And then the other half are saying, no, it's great and it's supportive and all the rest of it. But I think there's a big gap between what some people are delivering and comparing to like what some of the pros are doing. There's none of that middle ground, if that makes sense.
It's one of those things for me. I remember seeing kind of with the British Olympic team, they talked about small gains. And I guess maybe that's where we are in the world of FPV now. We've reached this pinnacle of technology where it's all about the small gains. And so you see all of the advertising about these new ESCs can work slightly faster, or these flight controllers are slightly better. And I kind of think to myself, you're selling this hardware as the next big thing when it's not really the next big thing. It's slightly better than the thing that you released 6 months ago. And I wonder, does the average Joe pilot actually feel the benefit of this new hardware? And as you say, Tristan, I get it. I'm kind of always torn between this because I'm sick looking at advertisements about the game changer technology and the next big thing. But as you said, Tristan, it's these companies kind of need to stay afloat. And if they don't sell their thing as the next big thing, nobody buys it, and then the company goes out of business, and then we're all standing here looking at each other with no hardware at all for our hobby.
I mean, I guess the big one recently...
It's trying to strike the balance.
The big one recently was Impulse RC, wasn't it? I mean, their frames, world famous for being, the best out there. But they obviously couldn't make it work. I mean, did they release any new frames over the last sort of 5 years? I'm not sure.
That's actually
just sort of rehashes on the same thing. I guess, I guess, Dave, you use the Apex frames, don't you?
Yeah, and Australian distributed company and stuff, and multiple people tried purchasing it to keep it going and stuff, like the business. And I don't think nothing could come out from it. So it sort of fell over. And I don't believe in buying copy stuff, because reward someone's work. And unfortunately, that's what it's going to be resorted to. If you want anything like that, if you need a broken arm for an Apex frame, you got no luck. That's how it's going to be. Yeah. So
I think you make a good point.
I think it kind of gets to what I was thinking about this whole topic. I'm a big proponent of capitalism and competition, and I think it's great to have all the competition, because if there's competition, products get better. We're kind of at a point now, though, that the products are even the crappy products are good. I mean, it's the distinguishing marks are so minimal between those. It doesn't really matter which parts you pick. When I got started, there were certain brands that you could get them. It would be cheap, but you paid the price for it. Like you could either buy, 5 of this cheap product because it broke, every day, or you could buy one. It would last you for a long time. But now, so many of the products are really good. It doesn't really matter which one you get. The flip side of that, though, is because everybody's really good, the competition is high, and because the competition is high, it's really hard to make money on it. So everybody is constantly in your face with, hey, buy my product, buy my product, buy my product, because there's a lot of competition. And then the result of that ends up being that companies come and go so many times, you can't find parts, you can't find replacements for stuff, which that kind of drove me to just, design my own frame and cutting the carbon myself, because I would find I'm slow when it comes to finding stuff I like. And so then by the time I would finally find something I like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get this. And then the company would be out of business, or you couldn't find the product, or they would have no parts available, or whatever it was. And I was like, man, this is getting terrible. And I was just frustrated. And my son was like, he's like, you should just design your own. And so finally, after enough nudging, that's what I ended up doing. And that helps a lot. But the same thing with motors. There's plenty of motors out there, tons of options, but you find one you like, and then you break one, and then you're able to buy some, and then eventually you can't buy them anymore. So then you have to find another motor, or you have to find another flight control or another ESC. And then with video systems, for the longest time, it was all analog, and there was tons of competition, and everything works together. Now it's all digital. Now you've got DJI. They've kind of become like the Microsoft of everything and taken over. And if you get their stuff, they just phase it out on their own. So then you can't find it. Not because it's not really available, it's just because they decide they don't want to make it anymore, because they want you to buy the next and latest, greatest thing, which that's great. It's improvement, but then I can't use stuff that works. It's a frustrating thing. And then you get inundated, like you said, you get inundated with ads from all these different companies. And are they any good? Are they not any good? I don't know. It's hard to say, because you're getting pushed into it so many different ways. It's a frustrating thing for sure.
Motors is a really good one, isn't it? I mean, because how do you redesign a motor? I mean, I know you can fiddle with the minutiae of the stator sizes and that sort of stuff, and the number of poles and that. But really, it's a pretty simple bit of kit, isn't it? You know, deliver voltage, great magnetic field, that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, I totally hear you. Motors is a really good one, actually, because they're constantly coming out with new colors and designs, and you know.
Oh yes, no, this is the latest and greatest, and it stays cool, and it flies longer, and blah 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 blah. When in the grand scheme of things, most of the flight time and staying cooler has nothing to do with the actual design of the motor because it's so small anyways. But it's so many other factors there with the props and everything else.
I've got one question for you, the three of you is, can you physically tell the difference between flying an F4 flight controller and an F7?
No.
Absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. Yes. Only that,
I can't tell the difference between anything of comparable specification. I mean, motors, a top tier brand motor and a low tier thing off AliExpress. I can't tell the difference.
I can tell the difference between old hardware, like when I got started with like Simon K ESCs and the new ones, but that's they're drastically different. So you can tell the difference there. But in the grand scheme of things, if someone was watching a flight back from hardware that's now versus hardware that's old, depending on the type of flight, they'd be hard pressed to be able to tell the difference. If you push the acrobatics enough, then you would notice a lot of those differences. But if you're not really pushing the acrobatics all that much, you're not pushing the drone all that much, just doing, general freestyle or general cruising, the difference is very minimal.
It's adding complexity,
even
isn't
with
it?
really old hardware.
Look at AM32 for example, compared to what BL Heli S. I mean, you've just got a few more sliders to get wrong. Certainly it's adding complexity when maybe it's not really needed for the majority of people. Certainly,
adding complexity just to do something different to kind of set yourself against the competition.
I have absolutely no doubt that there's going to be people out there now screaming at us, going, "No, but this is so much better."
Oh, yeah. I mean, like the racers and stuff. I mean, they can tell a difference between stuff, But like I said, like if you're flying it, you can probably tell a difference depending on the hardware. But if you was like watching back flight footage from something, you probably couldn't tell the difference between one or the other.
Yeah, from going racing, F4 versus F7 flight controllers. Nope, I always used F4 flight controllers because they were cheaper. Always broke them. And there was no point. And I races still, I couldn't justify it. But I guess with the advancements in all the automations and all the extra stuff you can install on a flight controller now, that's where it becomes different of how much features do you want, because it's a microprocessor, it's a computer. It's like, do you want position hold? Do you want return to home? Do you want all these other things? I think that's where the F7 comes into its own kind of stuff.
Right, yeah.
In terms of flight controllers, the only thing I look for now is if it has 3 UARTs.
Yes.
Because I'm flying digital. Up to that point, it made no difference to me at all because I had a UART for my receiver, a UART for a GPS, and then an analog OSD chip.
Yeah, that's the key for me, the analog OSD chip, because some of them now are digital only.
They don't have it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, the kind of the upsell of this flight controller can do this flight controller can do that. I don't care. Does it have 3 UARTs minimum? Great, that'll do.
Yep. I guess just before we move on,
get rid of the DJI plug.
Yeah.
I was just saying, get rid of the DJI plug.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, goodness. I guess just before we move on from this, radios we should talk about. We actually have in the past year seen a bit of innovation with ELRS anyway. With the new crossband chip coming out. But that's a funny one as well, isn't it? I mean, who actually needs crossband? but having
don't get me started with Express LRS.
But it's been a big excuse
Radios.
certainly for the big radio manufacturers to come up with all these new fancy designs to sell us more radios.
Oh yeah.
But I guess
Yeah.
that's how they're making their money, isn't it? Your radio is one of those things that should last you a very long time. So it's got to be tough for these guys to make a buck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I sort of have a little bit of a soft spot for that. A little bit confused.
In my time in the hobby for now going on 12 or 13 years, I've had a total of 3 radios. And one of those I still have it, still works. I just don't use it because the SD card reader in it's broke. And so I can't really migrate it to anything else. But I used it for probably 10 of those years, so yeah.
You get used to it, don't you? You get used to the throw. It helps you fly better.
It worked. It's like it worked. Why do I need to change?
Yeah.
I've got 2 sticks that go in, 4 directions, and I've got switches. I only need a couple at most. So what do I need all this other stuff for? I don't know.
Sure.
If I'm doing planes or something like that, maybe, but
yeah, sure.
For a drone, typically not.
It's one of those funny things. I'm the biggest hypocrite because I roll my eyes going, oh, no, another advertisement for another radio. And yet when I think back of how many radios I currently have, I think there's like 4 up in the garage. Plus then there's the 4 or 5 that I've owned in the past. I'm just like, oh no.
Big line sinker.
Such a hypocrite.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, to my defense, it's balance. It's trying to strike the balance between everything.
The radio thing really needs to step forward though, because like I recently made a mistake and mucked around with SD cards and I wiped my TX16, and it's been years since I've had to go and rebuild like a radio from scratch and use all the new firmware and stuff. And oh my god, I can only use a 32 gig max card because it's got to be an exFAT 32.
Yeah.
And trying to find a 32 gig SD card now, it's like
yeah, exactly.
nearly impossible.
Yep.
And yeah, but we've got all this technology that's moving so far forward, but the radios are still doing the same thing. The software's still doing the same thing. It's yeah. I really was excited when Radio Master brought out that new thing. Thought they were going in a direction, and found out they were using the oldest system of Android possible. And I was like, oh, that's a bit disappointing.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
And isn't there some radios that only have solid state memory built in? Are they expandable?
Oh,
I don't know of any
I
now.
think most have an SD slot too. Yeah, most of the Radio Master ones that I've seen do. Yeah,
the high end Futaba stuff, I think that's got like some pretty like neat features. But you're comparing a $1,000 radio to a $300 radio.
Yeah, and I mean they're kind of marketed to, the helicopter and the fixed wing, which they have a lot of specialty needs that they need to be able to do with mixing and all that kind of stuff that you don't typically have to do with the drone, since the flight controller is doing all the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got 2 radios. I've got one that I use for big drones and big planes, and that's TX16. And I've got a pocket that I use for freestyle and, whoops and stuff. So it's small, easy, light, and I can throw it in a bag. It's that's it. You can get away with one, but I choose to use 2.
Yeah, but in 2 years' time, Dave, are you going to, need another one because it's got this fancier shit, I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Or you'll decide to sell both and get like a T15 that's halfway between the two, coloured screen and features of the TX16.
I'm holding out on a rumoured pipe dream at the moment. That's what I'm holding out for.
Brilliant.